All right, ICE arresting since Sunday across 11 states, including one who is accused of serving as a sniper for the Iranian army.
And two men accused of trying to assassinate President Trump on behalf of Iran appeared in court yesterday ahead of their trials. Both are charged with murder for hire.
All right, ICE arresting 16 Iranian nationals since Sunday across 11 states, including one who is accused of serving as a sniper for the Iranian army.
And two men accused of trying to assassinate President Trump on behalf of Iran appeared in court yesterday ahead of their trials. Both are charged with murder for hire.
Former DHS Secretary Jay Johnson joins us now. I think, Mr. Secretary, thank you so much for joining the program. This is just another account of the failed Biden border policies that we have to deal with right now, right?
I put it this way, Lawrence. The presence in this country of undocumented migrants or Iranian nationals who have links to Hezbollah, IRGC, is, in my judgment, a domestic law enforcement concern of the highest magnitude. I hope and expect that the FBI, my old department, DHS, are laser focused on this right now. There have been the 16 arrests in the last couple of days, but that's not necessarily all of them. My educated speculation is that law enforcement has been tracking these individuals for a while in this country to follow leads, to see who they are in contact with. But I'm glad to see these 16 off the streets.
Talk about the work that goes into finding these individuals, because there are people here on the terror watch list. How do they go about finding them? Because some of these were found in all over the United States: Alabama, Mississippi, Missouri, Texas, New York, Maryland, Colorado, California, Arizona.
If the process is working the way it should, this should be an international cooperative effort. I can't tell you the number of times we got a tip from a foreign intelligence agency about someone in another hemisphere trying to make their way to this hemisphere
Fox News,
that were
guys. Are listening to the
long before
Fox
they
News
could reach
today?
U.S. soil. Our law enforcement capability is really impressive, and we need to stay focused on this. And my overall message to those who are listening is our law enforcement capability, our counterterrorism capability in this country is first rate. Our government should lay out all the things that they are doing to protect the American people. But the public, as we approach a holiday week, the public should not be discouraged going to public events, and the public has a role to play too. If you see something, say something is still a valid public safety tool, and it does make a difference.
I love the fact that the FBI quickly moved on Iranian illegals here because of the sleeper cell worry, and that President was told at the G7 from some of our allies to look out for sleeper cells that are ready to be activated here in the U.S. and it's got to be.
And sleepers don't necessarily follow the direction from their sponsors. Somebody who's here in the United States who has links to the IRGC, to Hezbollah, may decide to take matters into their own hands.
So, Mr. Secretary, I want to get your comments on this. This vice mayor, what's that city called?
It's called Cudahy. It's in California.
Her name is Cynthia Gonzalez. This is what she posted on social media as she got a knock on the door from the FBI. Watch.
These are all about territory, and this is 18th Street, and this is Torrance, and you guys tag everything up, claiming hood. And now that your hood's being invaded by the biggest gang there is, there ain't a peep out of you. It's everyone else who's not about the gang life that's out there protesting and speaking up. We're out there like fighting our turf, protecting our turf, protecting our people. And like, where you at?
Telling the gangs to get ready to take on ICE.
Yeah, that comment is inappropriate. You're the vice mayor of her city or LA or New York or Poughkeepsie, New York. That's an inappropriate comment. And let me add this. What I used to tell people at ICE when I was secretary, Tom Holm included, was when you're out on the streets doing your job, use because one notorious incident can turbocharge a sanctuary city movement, like we're seeing right now across the country. the ideal situation is where local law enforcement is working effectively with ICE to find these people in pretrial detention, find these people as their sentences end and they're about to be released, put detainers on them, and deport the criminals. And
they're not cooperating now, Mr. Secretary. Back then,
3 million.
They're not cooperating, and that's
they didn't show. They show up now. Yeah. I mean, they're doxing these agents. They're surrounding them. I can just imagine what would you do in this situation when your cops were surrounded
in sanctuary cities?
I personally would talk to the mayor of New York, the mayor of Philadelphia, and the mayor of dozens of other cities to say, you have to work with us. Don't wait for there to be a tragic incident in your city before you decide you need to work with ICE. Let's make this relationship work now.
So DHS commented on that video. She did end up taking that video down. The comments made by the vice mayor of Cudahy, California, Cynthia Gonzalez, are despicable. This kind of garbage has led to a more than 500% increase in assaults against our ICE law enforcement officers. And then the city of Cudahy released this statement. The comments made by the vice mayor reflect her personal views and do not represent the views or official position of the city of Cudahy. The city will be providing no further comment. What does law enforcement do? They went to her house. They're investigating. What should happen?
Well, first of all, when you're a vice mayor of a city, or when you're Secretary of Homeland Security or any other public position, you have very little space for your personal views hearing publicly. She said it, and it was not a good comment. I would counsel our immigration enforcement personnel, when they're out in the streets doing their job, looking for undocumented, specifically the criminals, to use common sense in these communities, which are very often blue communities that start off from a position where they don't want to work with ICE. So my advice is you have to use your common sense.
Mr. Secretary, you've been on this couch. You've been very upset about what's happening on the border. You've also been complimentary. Have you ever in your life heard about numbers as low as we've been hearing since President Trump took over?
No.
And do you believe he deserves credit for that and the Tom Homan team?
The numbers now are something like, last time I looked, 12,000 a month. The prior administration sometimes saw that in a day.
Wow.
If President Trump said, I've secured the border, that would be a legitimate statement to make, because the numbers now are the lowest in recorded history. Now, let me take that a step further. I think this president has an opportunity, looking at him in the face right now, and a lot of people won't want to hear this, comprehensive immigration reform. Just like, a Nixon goes to China moment, or a Reagan discusses with the Soviet Union arms control. He is in a position to bring along a lot of Republicans and Democrats at some point before the midterms at an effort at comprehensive immigration reform to fix
We'll have you back to talk about that.
Yeah, and he should call you, because I know Tom Homan also has great respect for you. Thanks a lot, Mr. Secretary. I'm Steve Doocy. I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.
Thank you so much for joining us for CBN Newswatch. I'm Ephraim Graham. Ahead today, how much damage did the United States military strikes do to Iran's nuclear program? Some reports say intelligence claims the attack set Iran back only a few months, but the Trump administration is strongly denying that. Even so, Iran says it is building a new nuclear facility. Now, Israel is turning its attention back to the war in Gaza and finishing off the threat from Hamas. Here at home, the United States government focusing on the threat from Iranian sleeper cells who could strike anywhere in the country at any time. And our Studio 5 conversation with gospel legend CeCe Winans, who is not slowing down after her annual women's conference. Now she is on an international tour following her Tiny Desk concert. All those stories and more right now on CBN Newswatch.
This is CBN Newswatch.
It is Wednesday, June 25th, going to begin this half hour with the aftermath of the U.S. military strike on Iran's nuclear program. The Trump administration is pushing back strongly against reports saying the attacks only set Iran back a few months, saying the damage was severe. For now, the ceasefire between Israel and Iran seems to be holding a day after Iranian missile attacks on Israel. Chris Mitchell brings us the story now. He's reporting from Jerusalem.
In Washington, the State Department is optimistic the ceasefire will hold.
There was some activity back and forth, and that has stopped, and the ceasefire has taken effect, and the president is pleased.
In central Tehran, thousands remain defiant, shouting death to Israel and death to America.
We don't approve of the ceasefire at all. We will continue fighting until we are either martyred or win. God willing, Iran will eventually own a nuclear bomb.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu assessed the impact of Operation Rising Lion.
For dozens of years, I promised you that Iran would not have nuclear weapons. Therefore, with all the actions that our fighters have taken, we brought to ruin Iran's nuclear program. And if anyone in Iran tries to revive this project, we will act with the same determination and the same strength to put an end to any such attempt. I repeat, Iran will not have nuclear weapons.
President Trump emphasized to reporters the U.S. and Israel stopped Iran's nuclear program.
They're not going to have enrichment, and they're not going to have a nuclear weapon. The last thing on Iran's mind right now is nuclear weapons.
However, the head of Iran's Atomic Energy Organization announced it has begun building a new uranium enrichment facility and said of the regime's nuclear program, "Our plan is not to allow any interruption." The White House also slammed a report by CNN and other media outlets that a preliminary U.S. intelligence assessment claims the attacks did not destroy Iran's nuclear program, but only set it back a few months. Caroline Levitt posted, "The alleged assessment is flat out wrong. Everyone knows what happens when you drop 14 30,000-pound bombs perfectly on their targets. Total obliteration." With the ceasefire holding, Israel is turning its attention back to the war in Gaza. The IDF announced 7 soldiers were killed in a Hamas attack on an armored personnel carrier. Also, the U.S.-backed Gaza Humanitarian Foundation is asking the UN to stop fighting its effort to feed Gaza's civilians and condemn Hamas's killing of several of its humanitarian workers 2 weeks ago. GHF Chairman Reverend Johnny Moore wrote to the UN, "Silence in the face of such violence is not impartiality or neutrality, it is abandonment." In just a few weeks, the GHF has distributed more than 40 million meals to hungry Gazans.
And our CBN Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell continues our coverage now. So, Chris, the Trump administration is blasting the leak, saying the United States strike only set the Iranian program back a few months. Israel seems to disagree as well. How confident is Israel the damage to Iran's nuclear program was severe?
Well, according to President Trump, Ephraim, actually, they had Israelis actually went into Fordo, and they described what they saw, what they reported as total obliteration and a devastating attack, which obviously contradicts what CNN and other media reports had said. That's very critical because the U.S. invested a lot of its military efforts, to hit Fordo, uranium site that really Israel didn't have the munitions for. They didn't have the B-2 bombers. And so, according to President Trump and to Israeli boots on the ground, apparently, and maybe some of these Mossad agents that went in there to report that actually it was the obliteration that Caroline Levitt said, as well as President Trump.
So, Chris, if Iran does rebuild its nuclear program, would Israel or the United States strike again? What do you think?
Well, again, President Trump was asked that question, and perhaps some people believe this may be his most important statement since the fire. The question was, if Iran does rebuild its uranium enrichment facilities, would the U.S. strike? And he said yes. And it really does seem that Iran is determined, even just a couple of days after the 12-day war, that they want to continue their nuclear enrichment. You saw that lady in Tehran actually saying they do want a nuclear weapon. Iran's foreign minister said no one in Iran has given up on the nuclear program. So there is a deep concern that Iran will simply repair its nuclear facilities, accelerate its nuclear program, perhaps even to weaponization. And the question continues to remain, Ephraim, where is that enriched uranium? About 1,400 pounds of enriched uranium, up to 60% enrichment that's just one step away from weapons-grade uranium. So that's a very important question, and also it seems like Iran hasn't given up on its nuclear ambitions.
Very important question indeed. What is the mood there in Israel now, about a day after this ceasefire seems to be holding?
It's remarkable, Ephraim, just a remarkable sense of normalcy after 12 days of war, and before that, a sense of what's going to happen as we anticipate the approach to a war. So after 24 hours, it really does show the resilience of the people of Israel. We were talking here in our bureau earlier. It almost seems like the 12 days was a bit surreal, and now we're back to quote unquote normal. No more airs, people getting a good night's sleep. The Home Front Command is saying you can return to regular activity throughout the country. That means gathering without restrictions. Workplaces can operate without restrictions, and schools can be open without any restrictions. So just one day after, a 12-day period of air raid sirens and missiles going through the skies and interceptions, back to a sense of normal. Ephraim, here we are.
Yeah, may that peace continue. Is the setback for Iran vindication for Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu after warning for years about its nuclear program, despite opposition at first from the Israeli establishment?
I really think so, Ephraim. He has been for decades, a voice crying in the wilderness about Iran's nuclear program, speeches at a joint session of Congress, at the United Nations General Assembly. He really has been what many people believe is the Winston Churchill of our time about the dangers of Iran, just like Churchill was in the 1930s about the danger of Nazi Germany. You could consider this his life's work. And we've had Operation Rising Lion, which some people say would be 12 days of his vindication. Decades of planning, mobilizing thousands of people on the ground, in the air, covert operations inside Iran, while maintaining secrecy about those operational plans. Just an incredible military success, really historic achievements that will be studied for years. But more than that, many people believe what happened in the last 12 days was nothing short of a miracle.
After the war with Iran, what is the most important thing military analysts say Israel should be doing now?
Well, it would be establishing principles for enforcement. And what that means is, the threat has been reduced maybe months, likely a couple of years, according to Israeli assessments, but it likely will grow again, and it has to be, quote unquote, mowed down. And so the idea is to create a new reality, which is that once Iran gets used to, and the world accepts, an enforcement routine. It's been established in Lebanon with Hezbollah for months now, because they've been hitting Hezbollah operatives and also any Hezbollah attempts to rebuild and rearm. But now they need to do it with Iran, which is going to be more challenging. It's further away, and also it remains to be seen how much freedom President Trump will give them. But that's the number one thing they're talking about, some sort of enforcement policy in place now that the war is over.
As you said in your report, attention is now turning back to Gaza. How is the war against Hamas going there?
Well, it really has been out of the news for a couple of weeks now. Operation Gideon's Chariot is continuing. They've eliminated dozens of terrorists recently, dismantled, according to the IDF, about 500 terrorist infrastructure sites that would be in above ground and below ground. Now they control more than 50% of Gaza. This is the idea that they're not ceding territory anymore. They're controlling it, and they're keeping control of it. But the hope and the prayer for many is that Gideon's Chariot is going to lead to the release of these 50 remaining hostages. That's the hope and prayer of many here in Israel and around the world.
All right, thank you. Our CBN News Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell, we appreciate your insights and look forward to hearing from you more in the days ahead. Coming up, the warnings about Iran's sleeper cells here in the United States, including some Iranians who crossed the border under the Biden administration. We're going to hear about the threats they could pose when we come back. You are watching CBN News Watch. The American government is warning about the potential threat from Iranian sleeper cells already inside the country, and they are considered to be potential terrorists simply awaiting orders who could strike almost anywhere and in many ways. Ardea Hurd has this report.
After President Trump left the G7 summit in Canada a day early last week, it was learned he had received a message from Iran that if the U.S. attacked Iran's nuclear facilities, the regime could activate sleeper cells to launch terror attacks in the United States. The FBI says assets are fully engaged to prevent an attack, and Homeland Security is warning of a heightened threat environment, but saying little else.
What information do we know right now in regards to those sleeper cells? How is DHS tracking and following and seeking information in regards to
I can't necessarily share that with you, but I will tell you that we are continuing to evaluate every single threat and to proactively go after them before they do anything or take any activity.
This week, federal immigration agents have arrested 11 Iranians here illegally. One arrested in Alabama was an Iranian army sniper. Another in Houston was carrying a loaded pistol. Counterterrorism expert Barak Senior in London says Iran, defeated on the battlefield, may see a sleeper cell attack as the only way it can hurt the United States.
The entire identity of Iran is a terrorist state. The reach is global. It attempted to conduct a proxy attack in the UK, in Sweden, in Argentina, Cyprus, Thailand.
And he believes Iran took full advantage of the Biden administration's open border policies, in which millions of illegal migrants entered the U.S.
Hundreds, if not thousands, of Iranian nationals passed through the doors of the United States.
CBN's Chuck Holton has reported from Panama's Darien Gap, where migrants must cross on their way to the United States. And he says he encountered many Iranian men.
Every Iranian that I met in the Darien Gap was a military-age male, and I didn't meet any Iranian women at all. They mostly spoke English, so they were well-educated, and none of them were with their families.
Last year, the Justice Department uncovered an Iranian plot to kill Donald Trump before the election. Washington also knows that a Hezbollah sleeper cell called Unit 910 is operating in the United States, ready to carry out Iran's orders. Iran, though, may also take a different route. A cyber attack. The Commission on the National Defense Strategy warned senators last year that the United States is unprepared for a devastating cyber attack that will bring life in towns and cities across America to a standstill.
The public is essentially clueless about the massive cyber attacks that could be launched any day by our adversaries, not just nation states, but rogue actors as well.
Iran in the past has hacked into water systems in several states and could use what it's learned to attack America's critical infrastructure, including internet, power, transportation, and financial systems, in an effort to make almost everything from phones to gas pumps to cash machines to traffic lights suddenly stop working.
We're in a cyber cold war today. We've got vulnerabilities with air traffic, radar systems. We've got vulnerabilities in our 911 systems.
The potential targets for Iran are numerous, and defending everything will be difficult. Dale Hurd, CBN News.
Still ahead, our Studio 5 conversation with gospel music legend CeCe Winans, who's back on her after her annual women's conference, is actually now on an international tour. We're going to hear from her right after this. Welcome back to CBN Newswatch. CeCe Winans is not taking a break following her annual women's conference. She is actually right now on an international tour. So, CeCe, I can't even begin this interview without first asking you about you and Shirley Caesar. How did that happen?
Man.
you know, when they were talking about doing another, this is something that we do as artists nowadays. We did it some back when, but now doing different versions of songs. It's real popular at the moment, and so they told me they wanted me to do a couple of versions, and Stephanie, one of the wonderful girls on our team, she suggested Shirley Caesar. Now, when they first brought it up, okay, I'm thinking, okay, you guys probably want me to, you know, connect with somebody who's new or young, or, you know, and when she said Shirley Caesar, I just said, oh. To me, she is just pure royalty. I love that woman. I have loved her. I have watched her for many, many years. My mom and dad love Shirley Caesar. And she's always been a part of my home. She's always been a part of my life. And then when I got a chance to meet her and actually do things with her, my respect level went, just 10 times, 100 times higher, you know. She's just so much fun. She's so much fun. So we had a great time. But that's how that came about. Somebody suggested her as the duet, and I was like, "Are you kidding me?" I would just sit in there and wash her feet if I can. And trust me, I knew she would outsing me before she even got there. But I was looking forward to it. I love it. And she opened her mouth, man. She opened her mouth, and it just oozed out of her. It was just like, because to me, if you put gospel singer in the dictionary, her name should be there. Yeah.
Am I hearing this correct? You're going on an international tour now?
Oh, yeah. It keeps going. It keeps going. Yeah, more than this. Whew, it was powerful. It's been powerful. Your goodness is running after. It's running after me. It's been powerful. And as bad as I want to stay home, I have enjoyed this tour. And people are requesting it everywhere. And my management, they already know I want to stay home. I want to be with these grandbabies, right? They're nervous to even ask me. What do you think about international, you know? And basically, I'm not my own. And God has given me a gift, and not only a gift, but it's for such a time as this. You know, I think everybody is seeing that, that for some reason, he's entrusting me to represent who he is and to encourage people to worship him everywhere, you know. It's very diverse, those who are coming out. So yeah, we're going international. And I'm excited about it. We actually got 2 legs of international touring this year. So pray my strength. Yes, we do. Yes, I got the glory all together. Hey, who we talking about?
And we can let you know that CeCe Winans is already in the middle of that international tour. The next stop today is in Switzerland. Be sure to join us this evening for a special edition of Studio 5. We've got a one-on-one conversation with rapper No Big Deal. He's talking about his humble beginnings, his music, and his ministry, and his dream to be like CeCe Winans, featured on the Tiny Desk. You can catch the Studio 5 special this evening on the CBN News channel. It begins at 8 Eastern. You can also watch it on the CBN News app, and you can find it on YouTube as well. We'll be right back with an encouraging word for your day. And it's time now for your Wednesday word. And today's word is chosen. Know this, you are not created to be rejected. You are created to be chosen. And the God of all creation has chosen you. Remember these 3 words. God chose you. And it has nothing to do with anything you've done. It's simply because of who he is and who you are to him. You are his son. You are his daughter. You are his chosen one. Well, that is going to do it for this edition of CBN News Watch. Remember, you can always find more of our news programs on the CBN News channel at any time, as well as online at cbnnews.com. Take a moment and let us know what you think about the stories you've seen here today. You can email us, newswatch@cbn.com. We look forward to seeing you right back here at the same time tomorrow. Goodbye. God bless.
Coming up on Jerusalem Dateline, a ceasefire for the history books, in which Iran fires missiles at Israel just before and after its announcement. High-rise in Beersheba takes a direct hit from the Iranian barrage, and 4 are pronounced dead. Analysis on the ceasefire and Iran from senior editor John Wagi and Lana Silk from Transform Iran. And some Israeli hospitals take special measures to protect their patients. All this and more coming up on this edition of Jerusalem Dateline. Hello and welcome to this edition of Jerusalem Dateline. I'm Chris Mitchell. Events are happening at breakneck speed in Israel's war with Iran. After President Trump's announcement last week, he would make a decision in 14 days about striking Iran's nuclear facilities. Events moved quickly. Sunday morning, in Operation Midnight Hammer, the U.S. carried out a targeted strike on nuclear sites at Fordo, Natanz, and Isfahan, and it stunned the world. Defense officials detailed the attack, which was the largest B-2 bomber operation in history, and the first use of the 15-ton massive ordnance penetrator, a bunker-busting bomb capable of penetrating deep underground.
At approximately 6:40 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 2:10 a.m. Iran time, the lead